Hi everyone, welcome here. My name is Maddie, and on this channel I make lifestyle, wellness, and nanny style videos. So I am a full-time nanny, and I have been a full-time nanny for just about 3 years. And today I'm going to be sharing with you all about the nannying interview process, how to find a nanny job, and the things to ask your potential employers during an interview. Okay, so first off, how do you even find a nanny job? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do this. However, my favorite way is either by word of mouth or on care.com. I have found many jobs on care.com. I have gone through a few agencies, but I prefer care.com just because I feel like there's a lot of different options, and if you make the right profile, then you can find a really good nannying position on there. One of the first questions that I always ask families is, what are you looking for in a nanny? And this is something that I never used to ask anybody because I just assumed that when I was interviewing for a nannying position, they wanted me long term unless otherwise specified in their position. And that is not always the case. A lot of times families don't really understand what a nanny is versus a babysitter. There's a huge difference between the two. And so I always like to ask that question, what are you looking for? Because it really gives me an idea of what they're looking for. Are they looking for someone long-term, short-term? Are they looking for more of a housekeeper or a house manager? Things like that. And then I always have an idea of what I'm looking for before I go into the interview. So if they're saying some things that just don't resonate with me, I will just kind of keep that in the back of my mind as we go through the interview. Another question that I always ask is, what are your long-term childcare plans? So this kind of goes back to, what are you looking for in a nanny? Are they looking for someone short-term? Do they want you just for a couple of months and then they're going to send their child off to daycare? If so, is that okay with you? Are you willing to just work for a few months? Or are you looking for something long-term, like a year, maybe 5 years, whatever it is? Asking them their plans is a really good idea so that you have an idea of what the job is like and what is expected of you. The third question that I like to ask is, what is your parenting style? So although right now I do not have my own kids, I do consider nannying as kind of a form of parenting in a way, because depending, even if you're only there for a few hours a week, you're with those children and you are most likely disciplining them, you are teaching them, playing with them of course, but you're essentially like a form of a parent. And I find that when you work with a family that has an opposite view of maybe the parenting style that you believe in, it can be really difficult. I learned this the hard way, unfortunately, but now I really have a solid idea of what I believe in terms of discipline, sleep, like naps or when the kids go to bed, in terms of eating, just everything. I like to have at least a similar view with the parents on all of those big topics. The next question that I like to ask is, what does a typical day look like for your child and your family or your children? This is really important because it gives you an idea of their parenting style. You can kind of see, are they routine people? Are they just kind of like whatever, whatever the child wants to do? Personally, I love routines, so I like to find a family that also enjoys routines. The next question that I like to ask is, what hours do you need? I mean, this kind of seems like an obvious one, but you'd be surprised how many nannies don't ask this question or don't really know in the interview, or when they leave the interview, they don't really know what the family is looking for. That always seems bizarre to me because to me, like, I kind of have an idea of what I want, and if you have no idea what the family wants, then it can be a little hard. So something like within this question is, if you are going to be a career nanny or if this is going to be a long-term position for you, something that I always ask is, are you willing to do guaranteed hours? And if you don't know what guaranteed hours is, it just means that you have a set amount of hours every single week, let's just say 40 hours a week. Whether the family uses you or not, you get paid for those 40 hours. Legally in the state of Massachusetts, which is where I live, we as nannies have to be paid hourly. We are not legally allowed to be paid salary. So I get paid hourly, and I have had several positions in the past where a family will cancel on me last minute and then I'm out that money. And at this point in my life especially, I'm living on my own and I have my own bills and this is my career. So if you cancel on me, that's not okay because I am planning on that money. So I always make sure that the family is willing to do guaranteed hours. And I like to have a set schedule. Some people don't mind if the schedule is different every day or every week. That is fine. For me personally, I like to have a set schedule like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday or whatever it may be. And I like to have guaranteed hours. So for example, if my nanny family goes on vacation, I still get paid for that time, but I don't have to use my own vacation time for that. I didn't have that in the past, and it was really hard because I basically had to base all of my vacations around my nanny families. And my vacations didn't really coincide with theirs. And it was frustrating because I had to take my personal vacation unpaid, or I had to choose if their vacation was going to be paid or unpaid. So that's something to consider when you are interviewing with a potential nanny family. The next question that I like to ask is about payroll and about rate. So something that I have learned along the years is to go in with a set rate and not really be willing to negotiate. So, for example, if you are to call a plumber to come to your house, there's no negotiating on that plumber's price, right? Or their rate. So the same thing, in my opinion, goes for a nanny. If you are needing this income to support you, or even if this is extra spending money, whatever it may be, you should have a rate in mind, and a reasonable rate. Of course, you don't want to be charging like $10 more an hour than what the going rate in your area is, but you should have a set rate, and because you are worth it. I mean, like, you have to be confident in your rate and know what you are worth. Another question to ask within that payroll and rate question is, how will you be paid? Are you going to be paid in cash every Friday? Are you going to be paid by check? How about taxes? How are taxes going to be handled? Are you going to have a direct deposit? All of that legally, you should be paid on the books, and that is how I am paid, and I get direct deposited every single Friday, and it's a wonderful thing. It's just super easy. In the past, when I used to babysit, I used to have checks or cash, and it was okay, but oftentimes parents would forget to get the cash on the way home, or they would give me a check on a Friday afternoon, which really meant that I got paid on Monday because I couldn't cash a check right away. Another question to ask within that rate question is about raises and bonuses. This is, again, something I never used to ask, but I find it's really important because if you think about like a corporate job, you are able to grow in that position, and most likely the families that you are working for have the opportunity to grow in their positions, and that is just my personal experience. I'm sure that there's families out there that don't have that option, and that's okay, but I personally want to be able to grow in my nannying position. So in a year from now, from signing our contract, can we have a contract review? Can we discuss a raise? Will I be getting bonuses throughout the year? All of those kind of questions. Sometimes they're a little bit awkward to ask, but it's good to know. And if they say, no, we're going to be paying you this amount or this rate for the next 5 years, that's something to consider. That's totally up to you. And you have to decide if you're willing to stick with that rate for the next however many years. The next question I always ask is, are you willing to have a contract? This is key in all of my nannying positions. I need to have a contract. It just covers me and the family as well. If anything were to go wrong, if the hours were to change, if something were to deviate at all of what we discussed, we at least have a paper copy of what we all talked about and we all signed that we can fall back on. The next question that I always ask is about backup childcare. Do they have backup childcare? I am human. I get sick. Not very often, but it happens. I also enjoy taking a vacation here and there. So do you have backup childcare? I mean, you'd be surprised how many people don't have backup childcare and they're basically relying on their nanny for everything. And personally, I don't think that that is the smartest thing to do. So next question is about transportation. Are you as a nanny, are you going to be able to take the child or the children out on outings? Personally, I'm not someone who can stay in the house all day long. So this is something that is a non-negotiable for me. I need to be able to take the kids out on outings, like going to the park, the library, grocery store, things like that. And if a family is not okay with that, I completely respect their decision, but that would be a deal breaker for me. I would not accept a position where I had to stay home with the kids all day long. Also within this question is, am I going to be expected to drive my own vehicle? Or are you going to provide a car for me? And if they say that I have to drive my own vehicle, that is completely fine. But here's where gas reimbursement comes into play. I always make sure that I am reimbursed for gas and wear and tear on my car. And in Massachusetts, it is 58 cents per mile. I just have an app on my phone that automatically tracks it for me. And then at the end of the month, I print out a report and I get paid back whatever the amount is that it comes up. And also with car seats, you should not be required to get your own car seats for the kids. That is the parents' responsibility. Whether or not you're going to take the car seats out of their vehicles every day and transfer them into your car, or if they're going to purchase new car seats for you and keep them in your car. Personally, I prefer when they purchase new car seats for me, because playing musical car seats is the most annoying thing in the world. Especially the car seats today, they are so bulky and heavy and they're super obnoxious. When they're in an infant car seat, it's not that big of a deal because you can just have the base, and bases are not that expensive, and you can just have the one bucket car seat and just transfer there. But in terms of like the convertible car seats, I find like I do not want to be switching out those car seats every single day. Next question is about cash and like an allowance and things like that. So in the past, certain families have given me like a slush fund or a fun money envelope at the beginning of every week, and say that's $50. I can use that money for the week for the kids, and we can go, if we're going to a museum and there's an admission there, I don't have to front that money, which is really nice. Or if we want to stop and get an ice cream cone, or if we want to go get some lunch or something like that, it's just really nice to have that fun money ready to go. Or are you going to be expected to front that money and then at the end of the week get reimbursed for that? I've dealt with both situations. I don't mind either way. It is definitely easier to just have the cash up front in like a slush money envelope, but either way, it doesn't really matter. And then another question within that topic is, when do you need to tell the parents that you're going to spend money? Do you have to tell, is it okay if it's like a last minute thing, or do you need to tell them 24 hours in advance, or a couple hours in advance, or afterwards? Getting all the details for that is really important, because I've definitely had some issues in the past regarding finances. The last question that I always ask in a nannying interview are, what will my duties be around the house? Am I going to be expected to vacuum or to clean the bathrooms or whatever? Am I going to be expected to do household chores? Or am I just expected to take care of the children, and whatever mess that we make, I'm expected to clean that up with the kids, depending on the ages? So putting that out all on the table and asking what your duties as the nanny is really important. And that can also affect your rate. So if you're expected to vacuum and mop and clean the bathrooms and dust on a weekly basis, you should be charging more money for those. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a little bit out of this video. And if you are going on an interview with a nanny family, definitely ask some of these questions, if not all of them. It's really awesome to just have everything laid out on the table and have all the questions that you have answered and before you even accept a position. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.